Cable Guy! Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Today, I'm taking a look at the all-new Capcom vs. Marvel-inspired Marvel Legends Zabu Wave Cable. Starting off with the packaging, and Cable comes in that classic Marvel Legends window box. This one comes from the Zabu Wave. It's interesting to me that they have the Marvel logo instead of the X-Men one, maybe because more people see this as a reference to the Capcom game. Either way, we get some comic art on the side. We can see that full image on the back. The picture itself is fine, though not exactly what he looks like in the box. Still, it's close enough. Cable travels back through time from a dystopian future to help the X-Men as an enhanced telekinetic mutant. Other figures in the wave include variations of Iron Man, Thor, Wolfsbane, Kazar, the Red Widow, and Icarus. And if you put them all together, you get Zabu. For those searching for Cable in stores, here's the UPC. And for packaging, I'm giving Cable 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and Cable's a big boy standing at 7 inches. According to Google, he's supposed to be 6'8", so that's actually pretty appropriate. For those who don't know, Cable is the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey's clone, Madeline Pryor, who comes back from the future. As for the figure, he shares a lot of parts with Hercules, by which I mean the right arm and most of the legs. The boots and feet are different from Hercules, and I have no idea if those have been reused. The torso is new. There are actually grooves in the torso to accommodate these straps, but to blend them in, they added these tabs to the belt, which we're going to talk more about in posability. I'm not sure if his cyborg arm is new, but I think it is, mainly because it's pinless, meaning that his right arm is the only part of his body that actually has pins. It doesn't bother me personally, but I know a lot of collectors really hate it when the pin situation doesn't match. One thing I really like is the shade of blue that they used for the costume. It's a perfect match to X-Men 97 Wolverine, and while the yellows are a bit different, we can fudge them into that display while we wait for Hasbro to make the official 97 version. Most of all, I love the head. Not only is it a phenomenal sculpt, but they did a great job with the printed paint, and the transparent glint coming out of his eye is a wonderful effect. This Cable definitely has a lot going for him. In particular, I really love the head sculpt and the 3D face printing. Some of the choices are definitely going to rankle a few collectors. Other choices, which we'll be talking about in the next category, I think are going to hurt this figure long term, but overall it's a solid interpretation of this version of the character. Even so, for presentation, I'm giving Cable 4 points. Moving on to posability, and obviously articulation is important for a fighting game character. From the top, Nathaniel's head's on a ball joint and a disc swivel. He can look up this high, which is fantastic, and he can completely bury that chiseled 5 o'clock shadowed chin. There's not much in the way of tilt, but you do get a little bit of wobble, and of course all the way around. Moving on down, and Cable can raise his arms 90 degrees. There are detents in the shoulder, but no trouble with rotation. No butterfly joints or anything like that, but that makes sense with these straps in the way. Moving down though, and he does have bicep swivel. His elbows are double jointed, but they don't get the deepest bend because of how thick they are. That said, the cyborg arm does bend a bit deeper, and then at the ends of the arms, his wrists can swivel and hinge either up or down. Shifting the torso, and Cable has an ab crunch and a waist swivel, but with an interesting caveat, by which I mean the straps. Referring back to Cyclops, and you'll recall that the straps are inlaid in the torso and are two separate pieces so that they don't get in the way of articulation. Here, they wrap the strap all the way around the torso, but put tiny little tabs in the front and back to help hide the joint. He can arch back this far, which is really good, and he can hunch this far forward, which is fine, but I'm really concerned about the long-term effects of articulation on these little tabs. Even after a little bit of use, I can see how easily they can warp. Once you see it, you really can't unsee it, and over the long haul, I do predict that these are not going to hold up. Of course, without a diaphragm joint, he doesn't get any kind of tilt, but thanks to the waist cut, he does at least get twist. Below the big red X belt buckle, and Cable has typical ball-jointed hips. All things being considered, I'm pretty impressed that they can kick about 90 degrees, though they don't exactly get the widest spread. Moving down the leg, and he has thigh cut hidden by these straps, pinless double jointed knee with a very respectable bend, boot cut rotation, and ankles that can hinge, and like the timeline, every time Cable messes with it, pivot. For a bulkier character like this, Cable's articulation is pretty much what you'd expect and more than adequate. Honestly, the only thing that could have made this guy better would have been butterfly joints, and I totally get why they couldn't have done that. For posability, I'm giving Cable 4 points. Moving on to playability, and Cable doesn't come with a lot of accessories, but what he has is pretty decent. He's preloaded with a fist and a gesture hand, Tiger Claw, but he also has a couple of trigger hands, also mind the cuffs while you're swapping those hands out, and that's to accommodate these blasters. I'm guessing they're reused, but I don't recognize them myself. Still, I do appreciate that there's a bit of paint in there. Lots of rounds on that one. The nice thing about Cable having 2 trigger hands is that he can dual wield, and if all that wasn't enough, he also comes with the hind left leg of Zabu. That'll come in handy if Cable works himself up an appetite, and you know what goes great with Smilodon leg? Beans! Well, of course, playability is more than just accessories and Smilodon legs. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. First things first, here's Nathan Summers with his dad Scott, aka Cyclops. But for more of that main team, here we have X-Men 97 Wolverine, Retro Card Storm, Retro Card Rogue. I still need to get around to the X-Men 97 version. And then here we have Retro Card Gambit. That said, in the spirit of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and here are figures of all the characters I have who appeared in the game. First up, and here's the Playmates Chun-Li, and then here we have Ryu, or Ryu, or Rue. I've heard lots of things in the comments. Either way, I know I do need to give the new Jada line a try. Moving back over to Marvel, and here's the 20th anniversary Captain America, the Retro Card Plasma Cannon Modular Armor Iron Man, the deluxe version of War Machine, Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, Retro Card Iceman, Psylocke in desperate need of an update, and the 80 Years Colossus. Veering over to some villains, and here's the X-Men 97 Magneto, who definitely seems a bit on the short side. Next up is the Retro Card Spiral, the Super Scroll Wave Doctor Doom as I await that new Cabal 3-pack upgrade, and then speaking of 3-packs, here we have the Amazon 3-pack Venom, the Wolverine 5-pack Omega Red, the Deluxe Infinity Gauntlet Thanos, and the Marvel Select Sabretooth because my pre-order on the new one still hasn't shipped. For a couple of really big guys though, and here we have the 80 Years Juggernaut and the 80 Years Incredible Hulk. If memory serves though, for the game it should be Smart Hulk. Even though he's not part of Marvel vs. Capcom, I would be remiss if I didn't bring out Deadpool. I'd also be remiss if I forgot about Apocalypse. Here we have the Build-A-Figure, the animated series influenced Retro Card, and towering over everybody, Marvel Select. For a relative scale comparison, here's Cable with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man.
Hey, do you want me to go back in time and fix those legs of yours?
No thanks. Been there, done that. Cable towers over the rest of the collection, but at 6'8", that totally makes sense. And while I'll never say no to more accessories, in this case I'm pretty satisfied. For playability, I'm giving Cable 5 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Cable and the rest of the Zabu wave are shipping and hitting stores now and retail for $24.99 a piece. Given just how beloved this particular version of Cable is, I expect him to be a standout from the wave, and until Hasbro gives us their inevitable X-Men 97 version, this one will sub in just fine. Get this Cable while you can, because if you miss out, there's no going back in time to fix it. For price, I'm giving Cable 5 points, averaging out to a grand total of 4.6 out of 5. As Cable designs go, where does this one rank for you? Sound off in the comments below. While you're down there, let me know which figure in the wave you're the most excited for. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.